your emotions and they transmute it in the form of a weakness, they got to create all these mechanisms that is also connected to the corporation because everything that's connected to the three-dimensional apparatus is actually a form of genetic self-preservation. So they have to extract your vitality in order to have some type of sustainability in this world. So this is why the great majority of Canaanite culture, they have to give sacrifices to their Moloch, Enlil, Baal, whatever you want to call it, archonic forces. They got to give these sacrifices because that's how the Canaanite they're able to have some type of sustainability. But like I said, we basically demonstrated that they lost their power because it's the end of admiralty law. We're going back to common law, which is the law of the land. So, what you think about archons, Rod?
So number one thing that we emit is when we in a state of fear is loosh.
Mm-hmm.
The loosh energy is harvested in different ways. Now you also have what's called a euphoric loosh. That's when you in a cheerful and jovial mood, but you release energy.
Mm-hmm.
So the sites of worship, as long as they got something for you to fear, like hell, they can give you an emotional roller coaster through a sermon. Bring up hell, and you release all of it as a fear loosh.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the marker, the die marker is called currency.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In order to see the current, you got to put a die marker in it, and we
Mm.
call it currency to allow us to see the current. You watch the flow of the loosh in the church by the offering plate.
Mm.
Okay, now let's take the religion out of it because people think the only place that's harvesting us is the religion. Let's say we all go to a football game. In the football game, we love football. We love to see our favorite player running the ball, passing the ball, making the tackle. We like the whole structure of the game. We just into it. It creates what's called a jovial loose energy.
Mm.
Now, how is this energy harvested and where do we see it? You see it at the box office as ticket sales, but then you see it as advertiser response to the point of origin of where they are soliciting their loosh.
Mm.
When they catch you in that state and they feed you their advertisement and you respond, you purchase their product. When you purchase their product and you surrender the die marker, the fiat, the currency, it lets them
Mm.
know that they are putting their dollars in the right place to get a residual return. So
Mm.
they feed off us through the advertisements is the leech itself in the blood they suck, we freely surrender in the form of soliciting an ad. That's what they call it. When you see an ad and you buy something,
Mm-hmm.
it's called soliciting an ad. So when you solicit the ad and buy the product, then you saying, okay, I liked how I felt when your advertisement told me yada 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 buy Nike. So here, I want these overpriced Nikes. Cost you
Mm.
$3.85 to make. I'm gonna pay you $269 a pair.
Facts. Mm. And that's another thing when it comes to that. Uh, you have to be energetically balanced, which is the God frequency, because it's one of those things where you don't want to be too happy, you don't want to be too sad, because you too happy, a demon or archon can feed off your energy. You too sad. It's so one of those things where you got to be energetically balanced to where you don't, where you're not energetically compromised by outside forces. That's
Right.
because
So that's why we tell people they need to learn psychic self defense.
yeah.
Psychic self defense is the toolbox to learn how to. Like if I go to, when I first came home, I wasn't using it. I go to a tractor pool. I left that tractor pool. It felt like I had been working in the sun for 4 straight weeks with no sleep. I was whooped. Right. Then I went back to a basketball game. Same thing happened. I said, "What the hell? Why do every time I go to these big crowds, this happen?" So then I was sitting there and I was like, I didn't do no protections before I went. So my
Mm-hmm.
energy, they was just all living off my energy for free.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the next event I went to, I, do my little focus, build my little auric field.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't have that issue. I was like, oh, that's some real shit. I thought that shit was fantasy. A lot
Mm.
of the stuff I be teaching people, I didn't believe that shit was real at first until I tried it and it worked.
Mm.
So then when it
Yeah,
worked, I said, I'm gonna teach this.
yeah, that's kind of like what I think Sharif El Bey, shout out to him and Brother Rich, they was talking about radionics on how you're able to change up the frequencies, just by way of crystallization and that's connected to your consciousness. You can change the molecular structure of anything that's in the three-dimensional apparatus, basically anything that has a spirit, because that also goes into the fact that with the food, because everything as far as like food, when you're talking about genetically modified foods, the archons, they are the ones who gave the Canaanite culture the edification to create these genetically modified foods, because nowadays you eat a motherfucking Big Mac, you know what I'm saying, your energy bar gonna drop all the way down the red, you're gonna be laid out just off a cheeseburger, because like I said, everything is compromised. It's the energy extraction. So that's why I said, man, like everything is compromised. So you gotta look just like me and Rob. We did this one video. We was talking about the blood contracts on how everything is an energy extraction, eugenics programs. You know what I'm saying? To the point, like I said, they supplicate your emotions and they transmute it in the form of a weakness. So when you stuck in time, that means you got to make money. You got to make shit work. If you ain't got enough money, now you got to go line up at the blood bank, the plasma center. Now you trading in your vitality for money. So that's why I said it's another way to keep your emotions supplicated to the point where you're not able to level up. So that's why I talk about, being energetically balanced. You know what I'm saying? Balance is what is going to get you to the self-realization portal.
That's what's gonna make your relationships more functional too and beneficial to both parties. The more balanced you is, people come around you, even if they don't say nothing, they start to feel they alignment, they finding their balance. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what the world in dervish is all about. Finding
Mm-hmm.
your balance, find your center. The ballet, gymnastics. If you can't find your center, you're gonna be a flop,
Facts.
right?
Facts.
So the once you find your center, you can spin for hours without being dizzy
Mm-hmm.
because you found your center.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can't do that.
That's a fact. I'm gonna get to another question. We're gonna get to a few more questions, and then we're gonna let the elder and hit up the elders his cash app. You know what I'm saying? He been demonstrating his knowledge, you know what I'm saying, for the last 5 years, on wax, and he's been, showing everybody. And an imbecile is a person who has a low IQ. So, like I said, you have a faction of people, a bloodline that controls the great majority of
who are criminals
Well,
who been
let me
go ahead.
let me answer your question with a question, which I don't normally do, but it's
Go
relevant,
ahead.
right? When the Israelis moved in Palestine, did the Palestinians see all Israelis as a problem?
No.
But did the Israelis see all Palestinians as a problem?
Yep.
Okay, now your leadership determines how your country appears to the public. If they drop a bomb, they not dropping the bomb 9 out of 10 on the leadership. They dropping them in cities where people live at,
Right.
right? So if they get mad at our leadership and they want to do something about it, they're not gonna attack the leadership. They're gonna attack the people in the country.
Damn, boy, that's cold.
It's military 101, the
Yeah.
basics,
Yeah.
right? Because don't nobody stand across a field with a musket no more and say, let's fight.
Nope.
Or they don't ride in facing each other on horseback with swords no more, or jousting javelins. That's all ancient warfare.
Right.
Now they fight from a distance by shooting bombs
Right.
across waterways, right? So when you talk about, um, he was talking about the production of uranium. I think he said uranium,
Yeah,
which is
uranium. Yeah.
right. So, but he didn't tell you that Nigeria also is one of the number one or major manufacturers of lithium,
Damn.
which is also a critical component to nuclear development.
Yeah. And
Now,
yep,
we
AI
ain't really worried about that because nuclear energy is ancient now. It's so outdated now,
I can see that. I can see that.
right? Now you got to worry about hydrogen energy, which is derived from water. You got to adjust for what they call electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere or kinetic energy
Mm-hmm.
that can be harvested just out of the air,
Mm-hmm.
or what they would call free electricity,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the nuclear power, which can accelerate the production by speeding up turbines faster in the production of electricity. So, but you still need to understand physics in order to understand how to not need nuclear energy
Mm-hmm.
because it's not the cleanest form of energy. It's not new. They found ancient nuclear sites all over the world where we was manufacturing nuclear weapons. This is why I tell you, you got to study the Vimanis Wars, the Anunnaki Wars, the Pyramid Wars. They ain't talking about warfare with rocks. They talking about ships flying across the sky shooting lasers,
Yep. Yep.
right? They just using the ancient language that it doesn't seem as. So now instead of shooting lasers, they throwing thunderbolts.
Yeah.
You see?
Yep. Yep. They use based on what they could describe back then to describe what they were seeing. I
Well, we have to figure out what they're talking about by understanding the difference in the time frame and
Mhm.
asking ourselves, well, what would we call this in modern times?
Right.
Right? We wouldn't call it a thunderbolt. We would call it a laser. What it is.
Yeah. 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 Scorpion. They say, scorpion sting. It sting like a scorpion. It's like a missile or something.
Yeah,
They
those are called stun guns.
yeah. Yeah.
Scorpion stingers.
Yeah. Stun guns. That makes sense. All right. This next part is a little of 7 minutes long. This is the first part that you told to the AI you told me to do about the
Yeah, let's go.
judicial. All right. So then the next 7 minutes will be about the
Deference. The Chevron deference was taking the power of the administrators away when they overturned it. It was enforced under Chevron in order for administrators to operate as specialists in a particular field of government administration, and they was making rules up as they go because they the specialists, right? There was also another case before the Supreme Court about administrative law judges. Why is this important? They are all occupational operatives of a foreign government. They're not operating on behalf of we the people. They operating on behalf of the crown of England and France, right? Because King George was a French king that chartered the first bar in 1863 in Savannah, Georgia, right? So they showing you how they are masquerading as legit, hiding behind fancy buildings and robes. The Constitution says our trials are supposed to be public. They not public, they public access. That's a difference. Public trial means that you're supposed to Like, for instance, the court TV channel. It's supposed to be running 24 hours a day out of every courtroom. Every time the court open up, it's supposed to be a channel that shows the public what's going on in that court. But if they showed us what was really going on, we would catch the fraud 100 times faster. So they gave us access, public access, to a closed trial. Public access, you would be allowed to take your phone in there, your camera in there. You're not allowed to record the proceedings, right?
That's
That's because they doing secret squirrel stuff,
illegal. Yep.
right? Well, it depends on what you mean by illegal. It's unconstitutional, but I don't know if it's illegal because remember, they got a right to an administrative court system.
Mm-hmm.
But the administrative court system is only supposed to review codes and statutes,
Contract,
right?
pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the judiciary or Article 3 court is the one that's supposed to hear what's called criminal complaints. There are no Article 3 courts hearing criminal complaints because all state courts, criminal state cases become federal civil cases once you bypass that state Supreme Court. When you move your case from state to federal, it's no longer a criminal case. It's now you dealing with contracts.
Commercial.
Because you filing a lawsuit, right? It's civil litigation in federal court. It's a lawsuit. Mm-hmm. You're suing the corporation for whatever you put in your habeas corpus,
mm-hmm.
right? So now that you're in the federal courts, they don't call it a criminal complaint no more. That's because it's no longer under Article 1 administrative jurisdiction. It's under Article 3, which is what we call the de jure court. The Article 3 court is the constitutional court. But what we don't know is there are other constitutional courts called tribal courts. But they only deal with tribal aspects. They have more of a right to try you for what's called a criminal complaint than an administrative court because they guaranteed under Article 3. And this is how you know the fraudulent court versus the real court. And this is why the judge is going to end up going to jail because they all operating for a foreign agency, but none of them registered under the Foreign Agent Act. Now, for reference, Muammar Gaddafi offered the wealth of his nation and $5 billion to Louis Farrakhan. The government told Farrakhan that if he took the money without registering as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agent Act and the Trading with the Enemies Act, that he couldn't receive the money. Now, at no time was any of the senators or congressmen that was being lobbied by foreign interests told to register under the Foreign Agent Act to receive whatever the foreign interest government or group was giving them as a lobby, right? So this is showing you two different things about foreign agent. They get to decide who's supposed to register as a foreign agent, and they have a standard and a criteria. If you speak up on behalf of the tribes, then you're not supposed to receive any financial support from anybody except the tribes. That's in their contracts, right? The tribes are not allowed to help each other because if we get caught helping each other, the government crashed down on the whole tribe of both that was helping each other. We had to build tribes so structured and organized that they can't infiltrate, and they still infiltrated because we didn't know that they look like us, but they not us. This is where you seen Bobby Hemmett was talking about Empress Verdiasi, right? Empress Verdiasi she didn't sit in the sacerdotal seat to reclaim the matriarchal land because she had been infiltrated by people that look like us that ain't us, that sabotaged her whole program.
She said it.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know these people. I never met them, and I don't know their names, but I know they was there. And the reason I know they was there is because she only went so far, then she stopped. That's what made me know that she had got infiltrated. She would never had stopped if she wasn't carrying the enemy in her camp. She would have went on to secure the whole bag, so to speak. So once you get infiltrated, if you making progress, you have to stop.
Mm-hmm.
So everywhere you see the leadership of a tribe taken from that tribe, that means they was making forward progress, and the government had to stop them in order to stop us from rising up and remembering that before a colonist ever came, we was already here. Before a
Mm-hmm.
Mongolian came across the Bering Straits, we was already here, right? Before we had the Chinese road in Central America, we was already here.
Mm-hmm.
When
Mm-hmm.
there were no mounds or pyramids on the land, we was already here.
Facts. Facts.
Because we've been here so long, here wasn't here until we built it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why America is truly the old world, and that the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the world was developed by people from America. But the out of Africa narrative stems from a Eurocentric perspective of history, and this is why they gave you what's they call it, Tartaria and Barbaria, which is east and west of Rome, because Rome is the central point by which this perceptual viewpoint is seen through Roman eyes. The Roman eyes are the Bible eyes. The ones who carry the Bible see the world from a romantic point of view. Romance is not what we think
Mm-hmm.
it is. Romance is actually another term for a bromance, where an old man seduces a
Yeah.
young boy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once he seduced the
Mm-hmm.
young boy, he sodomized him to take away his birthright of rulership,
Yeah,
right?
crazy.
By rupturing his root chakra. Now, the thing being is we had to figure out who was next in line. Empress Verdiasi was Red House.
Mm-hmm.
So if the Red House stopped because they was infiltrated, now it go back to the Blue House for the final resolution. If they
Mm-hmm.
have a competent chief that could show who did it, what they did, where they came from, explain how it was done, and then tell why. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Right? When those things can all be met and all of the tribes have access to the information, every
Mm-hmm.
tribe don't believe the same thing. We're not supposed to.
Right.
Every tribe doesn't have the same standards by which they operate. We all supposed to be different in our own unique way. You could dress a blood up like a Crip, he's still gonna be a blood and heart.
Mm-hmm.
You could dress a Crip up like a blood, he's still gonna be a Crip at heart. Right? So you gotta realize that the cover can change, but what's in the heart remains the same. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So across tribes, the love can still be there. We just wearing different uniforms fighting the same war. And as soon as we realize we ain't supposed to be fighting each other in order to overthrow those on top of us, as Tupac would say, my destiny
Mm-hmm.
to overthrow those on top of me, right? So in order to overthrow the ones on top of you, you got to know who you are. So this is why I told people Bloods has always been a federally recognized tribe. They just didn't tell the Bloods. And they moved $5 Indians on the
Right.
reservation. Right? Me and Elder
Pyru.
showed
Yep.
that. We didn't just tell you, we showed you the
Yep.
proof. Right?
Details in detail.
And the Crips was from Northern California. They used to call them crabs. That's how we knew who they
That's right.
was, because the Bloods call them crabs. So when we
Mm-hmm.
did the tribe, we found out that they was also replaced by $5 Indians.
Yep.
Europeans masquerading as Indians.
Mm-hmm.
And then we was able to find where they supposed to be at. This is where you had conflicts on the land, because you got two people that's strong in pride and power that's not going to bother each other. And then you have outsiders standing in one camp throwing rocks in the other camp, pretending to be there. They're supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
Mm-hmm.
now we fighting each other instead of fighting what we was put together for. This community revolution in progress. These brothers looking out on darkness, waiting on the return of the sun to rise in the west once again, because they didn't tell us that the map was flipped.
That's right.
South is up, north is down, east is left, west is right.
That's right.
So once you see it from its proper perspective, you realize that the motherland, right, or the Queensland, is on the top of the earth, shaped like the Ashanti stool, which is a sacerdotal seat, right? And they call it the outback. Outback, out behind your gown, your ass out, in the
Mm-hmm.
back,
My
right?
daddy used to say this.
So she's sitting on the stool with her ass out, but her front covered, and she holding the baby. And you know how our sister is built, and that explains why her ass out.
Right.
Because it was supposed to have been a woman, not a man.
So Rod, pretty much dealing with the judicial system and them setting up the Federal Reserve System and it being based all on contracts. A lot of the contracts they get us into, it's like it's not by force, but it's like, oh, you can't do this unless you got this. Like it's like you
Adhesion
can't buy or
contract.
sell. Yeah, like you
They
don't buy a driver.
call it,
Like you drive.
right.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
They call it adhesion contracts, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't accept you exercising the right. That's how you know they don't belong here.
Yeah, they criminals. Yeah, go ahead.
Look, the Supreme Court ruled over and over that the police ain't supposed to compel you to identify who you are with ID. The police say, the statutes say you got to identify when I pull you over with identification.
Mm-hmm.
So now you looking at administrators and the police and the judges at the local level going directly against legislators and judiciary and violating the Supreme Court order. The Supremacy Clause say they can't make a rule that violates your constitutionally protected rights.
Right.
That's why traffic courts can't hear constitutional matters. It's not a constitutional court. It's
Right.
Article 1, not Article 3. Now,
Right.
you got something called voir dire, which is the intermittent questioning for the purpose of determining the facts. Right? And in the case of the voir dire, you in a dialogue, you requesting a dialogue with the judge in order to verify what jurisdiction you under. When you start
Mm-hmm.
going along the lines, they normally call a recess and try to get you to get a lawyer so that the bar member can facilitate you through the process of surrendering to their system, because he's the
Right.
competent official that represents your interests,
Mm-hmm.
according to that person sitting on the bench. Now, the problem come in is irreconcilable conflict of interest. When you say an irreconcilable, that means that there's no remedy that can be made up to fix this problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? The irreconcilable conflict of interest is the fact that the prosecutor is a bar member, the judge is a bar member, 9 out of 10,
Facts.
the clerk is a bar member,
Mm-hmm.
and then the defense attorney is a bar member. According to subject matter, this is a matter between barristers, and you, civilian, have nothing to do with the case at hand.
Right.
You have nothing to do with barrister matters. Why? You're not a member of the bar. That's a conflict of interest that cannot be reconciled. Well, if that's the
Facts.
conflict of interest that can't be reconciled, according to day law, what is the remedy for an irreconcilable conflict of interest? Total dismissal. It's
Total
like ruling
dismissal.
on
Because the
something that
conflict.
doesn't have a law to it.
Right.
But if they can get you to
Exactly.
submit to the contractual language of statute, code, then
Or
you don't have to argue public law. Public law and code and statute are not the same. Public law
right.
is foundation rooted in what's called the common law. The common law was the law of the land prior to colonization that put us under the jurisdiction of maritime and admiralty. Maritime and admiralty is where you get your squatters' rights and salvage rights from.
Mm-hmm.
The salvage
Mm-hmm.
rights is the right to claim what you discover lost at sea.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Mm-hmm.
squatter's rights is your right to squat on what you've recovered from the sea without nobody taking it from you, for you can catalog it as your winnings.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they get the squatter rights from, right? And it's called squatter rights because it normally comes from a discovery of a new land, and you had to sit in a squatting position while you wait on the ships to come.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting about the how they got this system set up to where it's like, oh, you voluntary compliance. You gonna well, you don't gotta do it, but if you don't do it, you ain't gonna get no food, or you ain't gonna be able to drive, or you ain't gonna be able to do this. And so it's like you said, adhesion contracts. It's all based on scare tactics. If you don't go in there and you don't know nothing, you pretty much food for the bar.
Okay, now they
Food for
got
the
something
bar.
called the duress doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
They can't if they force you into a contract under duress, it nullifies the contract.
Mm-hmm. That's fact.
If they lure you by deception into a contract, it nullifies the contract,
That's right.
right? The maximum law says fraud vitiates all contract. That means it's voided before it's
Mm.
ever a contract, even if they write it up as a contract. The fraud made it void on its face. It's
Mm.
automatically void. You cannot enter into contracts under duress or deception. The adhesion contract comes with a long list of fine print that
Mm-hmm.
most people never gonna read,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we don't know, most of the time we don't know what that fine print say. We just know
Mm-hmm.
our baby need a social security card to go to school. I need my driver's license to get him back and forth and
Mm-hmm.
cash my checks,
Mm-hmm. Right.
right? So you forced to use these documents to acquire these documents. They force you into an adhesion contract, a non-consensual contract that's one-sided, right? The term in law they use is I forgot the word, I forgot the term, but it's a one-sided contract. It's a one-sided complaint. right? Now, when they rule on it, any ruling is called an arbitrary ruling. That means they just winging it. They
Mm-hmm.
don't really got the power, but they just ruled it because they sitting in the position that look like the power. The arbitrary
Mm.
ruling. That means they just took it up on
Mm.
themselves to assert power that they don't have.
Hey, I heard one of the ancestors say, one of the master teachers, Taj Sharik Bey, say, if we do sign, what's your take on this? Signing, if you do sign with them, reserve your rights. Like he's talking about like a UCC dash
Okay, now
138.
that's
I guess
called
that what it
yeah,
was.
that's called playing the paper game.
Okay.
That's literally called playing the paper game. That means that you in a system that's operating off this paperwork and you
Mm-hmm.
haven't figured out yet how to get from under it.
Mm-hmm.
But you do know that you are aware enough to know that any contract signed under duress is void. Therefore, you could put U period D for under duress or all rights reserved, meaning that just because I signed this paper don't mean I surrender any rights.
Right.
That's because you playing the paper game with them. We passed that. We trying to get rid of
Yeah.
their ass.
Yeah. It's completely right.
We don't want to play their paper game. That's why we're using the oral tradition and putting it out in the public for all of the tribes to see. Because
Yep.
now we can explain to them, following this oral tradition, and we've been watching Rod Hayes, Empress Redbird, following the oral tradition and reclaiming everything on the land in real time for the last 5 years. Never
Mm-hmm.
deviated, never stopped, all the way to now. Now
Yep.
everything is done. And it's always facilitated by the birth of a child. And then the child,
Right.
the new royal heir has to be presented to the public by a competent big mama. It's already
Mm-hmm.
sat in the sacerdotal seat. And that's what they call the heralding of the age.
All right. Hey,
So
we're gonna play this. We're gonna play this other clip because we got another 7 minute clip, and then we'll.
that's what Empress Radiasi used to win her case, right? So they had to acknowledge it in order for her to be successful as she was. We all know she
Mm-hmm.
was because we also also stemmed from the same case from the heirs to him returning, right? And remember,
Mm-hmm.
that's it was also a grandfather treaty that preceded the Louisiana Purchase. Because you got
Right.
to remember when the original land allotment of the Vatican was assigned, most of the Louisiana territory was Spanish controlled, even though the
That's right.
Spanish had not entered yet,
Mm.
right? And it was during the negotiations of the Treaty of New Orleans with the tribes that the French took the protectorate detail in order for them to use the port of Nola for the transport of goods
Mm-hmm.
and people, I guess. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so once the Louisiana Purchase was effectuated, the French government sold the Louisiana Treaty to the United States. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
remember that. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
And the United States, which is a corporation now, but which was it was forming from the Continental Congress. That's why the
Mm-hmm.
presidential succession, starting with John Hanson to George Washington, then George Washington is acknowledged as the first president. Under the
Mm-hmm.
Continental Congress, we had multiple presidents. But it wasn't
That's
until
right.
after what they called the first constitutional convention that George Washington became the president on the back of the Constitution written in the blood of Crispus Attucks.
Mm-hmm.
Right
Mm-hmm.
now, this contract is where we get the George Washington challenge from.
Mm-hmm.
that at the end of 200 years, if we mix you niggas up, you ain't gonna know from which side of the water you came.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where you come in with the reclassification. It's the scrambling of the minds of the people. You keep telling them what you want them to be. They know who they is, even if they
Mm-hmm.
don't say it out loud, because it might cause them to get lynched.
Mm-hmm.
But they know who they is. And the grandmamas and the mamas is going to keep it in the minds of the babies in the form of the redemption songs that's whispered in the ear of the babes by the young mothers. Because the
Mm.
soldiers are going to be born because we were still at war. And
Mm-hmm.
some of these
Mm-hmm.
soldiers that started all as pawns in the game is going to evolve in military understanding to the degree where he becomes a master strategist who can offer his strategic advancements over the corporation by territorial rights, subjugating and overturning the admiralty jurisdiction. And now you got ISIS on the land
Mm-hmm.
because ISIS is on the land. Big Mama is home, having reclaimed her seat. So now, on behalf of all the tribes, we just waiting on Big Mama to sit in her sacerdotal seat and show the world, which is a metaphor for a bigger formula. As above, so below. As within, so
Hey,
without.
shout out Dr. Kia Pruitt in the building.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. We're talking about Empress, the Empress.
Now remember, when she stopped her advance on the corporate government, the next Big Mama can't stop until she sit in the sacerdotal seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The sacerdotal seat is not in D.C. It was in Philadelphia.
That's right.
The audacity of one of these Big Mamas to walk up in this building with these people's security there, walk up there and sit on that seat while security telling you no, knowing that as soon as enough of the tribal mothers remember, they're going to come out in mass support to
Mm-hmm.
serve the eviction on the corporation because they already Big Mama home. We just got to remember our culture. It's right there in our face, right? So now, since the baton was passed from one empress, it got to go to another empress. But she
Mm-hmm.
got to be Blue House. She can't be Red House because the Red House got infiltrated,
Mm-hmm.
right? And since the Red House got infiltrated, don't mean the Blue House didn't get infiltrated. It just means that you had to keep passing the baton from Big Mama to Big Mama until one of them sat on the seat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we finally
Mm-hmm.
got there.
Yep.
So that's what we're looking at.
Another. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another thing too, Raw, is I got a video out on the Empress for DC talking about how she got infiltrated and how that when she was going to file charges over in the international courts, right before that, 2 days, the feds raided her house and stole all of her money. Like she didn't even have enough money to even get out of the country. They confiscated all of her like documents.
How
And
long
then
is the
look, when she
video?
tried to go, it's about 7. I was gonna cut it, but it's like 7. The video is like 20 some minutes on the video side. It's called the Empress for DC with Bobby Hemmett. Bobby Hemmett. It's the longer version of the tape I just played. It's on the video side. I'll link it in the descriptions on this video of the show. But she go like 7 minutes and talk about breaking down how right before she was about to go file, like after all this stuff that we just talked about with the AI and with the Supreme Court, she was finna go when they revoked it. She was finna go over them to international courts. And 2 or 3 days before she was about to get on the plane to go to international courts, the FBI raided her house, all of her businesses. they stole like $250,000 worth of her money that she had in different locations to where she couldn't even go. And because like you said, we at war. We at war with these people. So, and then when she go to try to, hey, what's up? Like, how do I get my money or make a complaint about it? They say, oh, we don't know nothing about it. Like they had like the raid never happened. And look, they were supposed to notify the sheriff because the FBI can't really arrest nobody. They won't tell nobody that. So they had to notify the sheriff before they came to raid the Empress. They didn't even notify the sheriff, so they broke all kind of like guidelines. Because that's why you always, when you see the feds, the sheriff always be with them, because the sheriff's got to make the sheriff is really the real police. The FBI not really police. They a
for the
foreign
marshal.
agency. Yeah, that's right. Go ahead,
You know,
Rod. Go
sometimes
ahead.
they come with marshals. The marshals is the real
That's right.
federal
U.S.
police. They the real
That's
federal
right.
police. The sheriff he got a county, right?
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, you might have had a sheriff that might have had 4, 5 counties,
Mm-hmm.
but now
Mm-hmm.
there's so many people that they've gave a county to each sheriff. But back in the day, a sheriff could be over a sizable portion of land, like a game warden,
Mm-hmm.
right? The game wardens, the only reason why they here is because they was established to stop the colonizers from slaughtering all the damn animals.
Mm.
That's what the created game wardens.
That makes sense.
Somebody had to stop the colonizers from basically extincting every native species of the land. So they created
Mm.
the game wardens to stop them. And that's why their number one thing is poaching. If they catch you poaching, they don't have to arrest your ass. They can light your ass up.
Right? Yeah, they take your boat, your car, they take your truck. Man, these people out the gang
And
wars,
they don't
boy.
need a warrant because you already on their territory. They operating from
Mm.
the law of the land. They're not
Mm-hmm.
operating from admiralty jurisdiction, and this is the same as cattle rustling laws. Cattle and rustling laws is derived from the rules that the tribes had for having livestock and owning
Mm.
your own personal asset of livestock. Every tribe didn't deal in livestock. And that's
Mm.
how you had different tribes, like the Buffalo tribe dealt in buffalo livestock. You couldn't come into this tribe's buffalo territory and run all of their buffalo to your territory. That wasn't permitted because the Buffalo clan had a right to stop you with death if need be.
Mm.
Right. So this is where all of those DNR rules is different from regular law enforcement rules because they're not derived from the corporation. They derive from the tribal law of the land, and they got different consequences than common judicial law that we experience on a regular basis. Game warden to light your ass up. He catch you shooting a
Man, okay.
borderline extinct animal. They won't even ask you no questions. Just light your ass up. Go out to Yellowstone and shooting at one of them protected animals like the wolf and let them see you. They gonna light your ass up. They ain't gonna ask you, freeze you under arrest. Now, if you already killed it and they catch you with it on the truck, they might arrest your ass. But while you in the act of killing it, they not gonna arrest you. They gonna kill your ass, stop you from killing it.
That makes sense. They more guarded than the
This,
police dog. Sound like.
if you go to Texas, man, and anybody in the chat from Texas, tell me if I'm wrong. If you go to Texas and you go in somebody's yard with a horse and try to leave with that motherfucker, they not finna tell you freeze. They gonna light your ass up and not gonna do a day in jail.
Mm.
Cattle rustling
They
laws
call
still
standing
apply.
your ground. Yeah. Mm.
That's come from the
That's interesting.
tribal law of the land. They don't come from this regulations of the corporation.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, we had 7,000 people on tonight. We got about 2,000 on right now, I think. Everybody hit that like, hit that subscribe button right now if you're new to the channel. Everybody on, we got everybody on. Hey, everybody send Chief $5. If you can't send them $1, if you guys got it, send them 100. Right, put them in the game to the next time we come back on. We got his Cash App and PayPal on the screen. Hey, I got another question for you, Chief. So it's a lot of people now. They get since they found out the money, the fiat. This fiat we've been operating. We don't really got no money. So now they converting all, like a lot of people are converting a lot of their money over to silverback and goldback and silver coins, etc. Native American coins that's worth money. They pretty much getting more into real money. So what is your take on them getting people converting, like if they got over 100,000 just sitting around of this fiat currencies, like although some of it we're gonna switch over to the new system and they gonna transfer it out. But do you think it's a good idea to buy silver now with the Venezuela thing with JP Morgan in Tennessee setting up the
Me,
refinery?
me
Uh-huh.
and Rishathon been telling people to buy silver at least 3.5, 4 years. I was telling them
Silver.
about gold the whole time, but I was
Mm-hmm.
also telling them about silver and copper and other metals.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also telling them about precious stones and gemstones, not necessarily diamonds, rubies, and sapphire, but you have other stones that carry frequency and energy that we want to be in contact with. And we was telling
Mm-hmm.
them about all of this stuff so we could have a head start in understanding the management of wealth. The people that
Mm-hmm.
have fiat currency that converted to silver and gold right now is smart as F. They financially savvy to the point they go, because remember, the greater the demand, the greater the cost to
Mm-hmm.
obtain it.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not in the supply, in order to match the demand, it automatically drives up the value.
That's right.
And if you got fiat currency, you'll be able when the new banks come online after the old banks, you'll be able to exchange it dollar
Mm-hmm.
value for dollar value. But the
Mm-hmm.
dollar value of that gold and that silver gonna continue to rise as people switch over to the new currency systems with the gold
That's
backs,
right.
with the silver and the gold
That's right.
coins, right? And these are going to be. Then you going to always remember commemorative coins is like investing in a savings bank,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's made from precious metals with a certification card to come with it and all that. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's telling them because the art that's added to it adds to the value of the material. So they give them out as commemorative coins,
Mm-hmm.
gold ones,
Mm-hmm.
silver ones. Some of them got gold and silver on them, but they put them in little display boxes for coin collectors. Because the coin collectors are the ones that know the coins that got the real raw material, like the original penny that was cast in copper was cast in real copper. But the penny that they printing today is not even worth a penny to print.
Mm-hmm.
You can
That's
print like
right.
12 of them for a penny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they discontinued the penny because they wasn't using the copper penny no more because the size of the copper that equals a penny would have been about the size of a microdot.
Hmm.
So they can't give you a penny worth of copper no more. Without it being so small, you got to hold it with tweezers. That's that's a penny worth of copper now, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
remember, the size of the penny hasn't changed.
No. No.
So that shows you that's called inflation. This is why it's going to be illegal to lend money and borrow money unless it's like your mama, you borrow something from your mama till you get to your place to give it back to her, something like that. But
No.
banks won't be able to lend money and they won't be able to borrow money in order to keep the inflation down.
Hmm.
There will be no such thing as an interest rate because there will be no credit, right? You won't
Mm-hmm.
have to buy anything on credit. Anything that you want, you should be able to afford. right? And by understanding this, it's changing your whole understanding of life and how it's working versus not working out.
Mm.
You know, keeping in mind all things come together for the greater good, right? The golden heart paves the way of the golden path, the yellow brick road. The yellow brick road is a theoretical road to wealth. The city of Oz. Oz means strength, the strong city. The strong city is New York City because that's what Strong Island is, which is Long Island.
Mm.
That's what the tribes in New York call it, the Shinnecock. They call it Strong Island,
Mm.
even though it's Long Island, right? But there's five boroughs. Five boroughs is five asses, which is five mules, which is five Democrats, which is five donkeys, which is
Mm-hmm.
five dummies.
I see it. I see it. I see the alchemy.
But the dummy is really a clown dressed up to look like a dummy.
Ronald
But you know
McDonald.
us, we clown around when we hang around with the underground.
Right? Digital on the ground. Hey,
Right.
we about to get up out of here, y'all. Hey, what I was gonna say, it was one more thing I want to ask you, Rod. Yeah, so pretty much everything's going as scheduled. We just sitting in the saddle, riding this out, riding these suckers. They last little kick and scream. They ain't really kicking and screaming no more now. They got past that part now. They just walking off slow, just walking off, getting off our land slow now. Seems like they ain't even fighting back or trying to do nothing to me. It seems like to me.
So
It's
they
over with.
created a grand spectacle in the political arena to get all of the people's attention to focus somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they want us to look to Venezuela?
Right.
Right? Look back and review it again from a different lens. They want us to watch Venezuela so we could understand how when we was invaded, the foreigners decided to run the government in the interim. They was never
Mm.
supposed to be here this long, but because of the war, we was not prepared to rerun the government to the same level we had now. So we had to relearn it. And it took us only 100 years, less than 100 years, because they've been telling us the parts of the story in different places. We just didn't remember enough to put it all together. Everybody gave
Mm.
some, and some gave all,
Mm.
right? And so you got to remember, just because you don't see the war, don't mean that the war ain't been taking place. Just
Right.
because you don't understand the level of warfare 500 years will develop to, don't mean that we ever stop fighting. We never stop fighting. You have people that still have active lawsuits in court that can be
Right.
traced back all the way to the 1800s, where they've been suing these people for the fraud that they used, for committing the fraud that they committed on their family, trying to steal their land.
Mm-hmm.
Now remember, Martin said they undergirded the European peasantry with land and infrastructure. Where did
Mm.
they get the land from when all tribes told them we don't sell land?
Right.
So where did they get the land from? Right? They keep telling us that they stole our land, but it's one part of theft that this land is not doing. It's not concealed. When I look out my window, it's still there. When I walk down the street, I see it everywhere. The
Right.
land's still here. They didn't steal our land. They stole our identity that connects us to the land. But as an old
Right.
Mississippian, Mississippi clay dirt walking, I know what I'm talking about when I tell you we was already here. Cause I did this so many times that nobody would believe I am who I say I am until they see what we said we did.
Right. I can feel
Y'all
it.
have and see.
And on that note, We could drop the mic and walk off stage. Hey man, free all of our political prisoners, man. We still fighting. We ain't never gave up, and we gonna fight. We gonna fight, man. Let's fight. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep it going. Let's keep making everybody aware. All we gotta do is keep making more people aware. The more people come online, the faster this shit go down. I'm telling you, the more people that we get online, I'm telling you, the faster it go down. The 100 monkey effect, right, Rod?
Yeah, the 100 monkey effect leads to critical mass. Critical mass is a nuclear fusion or fission. It's the
Mm-hmm.
spreading out of the nuclear fallout, the radiation wave, the wave that comes off the central blast and the energy field across the radio wave through the
Mm-hmm.
air, which is the
Mm-hmm.
airwaves. And the ones that's hearing it is the dry bones in the valley. So we speaking over
Mm.
social media to carry the message across the airwaves to the valley of the dry bones so they can rise up and be an exceedingly great army, the great army of Armageddon, the final conflict and the final showdown, right? Where they feed the imposters to all of the people of the land because they're going to have to make them known to us and get out our way. So all
Right.
you frauds and all you fakes, all you imposters, when the National Guard get arrested the last few deep state actors, and y'all riding through the neighborhood thinking we don't know who you is, and you been a plant the whole time, and you know
Right.
you a plant, and you know you a rotten, crooked SOB. You got to deal with these angry vice lords, GDs, Keystones, Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, Latin Counts, Black Souls, Four Corner Hustlers. You're going to
The
have to deal
bikers.
with them. Hell's
Mm-hmm.
Angels. You're going to have
Mm-hmm.
to deal with them. You shouldn't have been starting shit in our neighborhoods, turning our children against each other. We know who the frauds are. They all on file. They already exposed themselves by putting their name on contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Now you about to see all of their names put out in the open in the contracts that they signed with these people to subjugate the people of the land, even if it's what you call your brotherhood oath in the lodge.
Mm-hmm.
They gonna show who the dirty players is. It's gonna come out. The infiltrators, the imposters. We done already been won the game. The game been won. And it wasn't about winning the game. This was about finding the imposters, getting the frauds out, the fakes, the
Right.
usurpers, the underminers, the dirty motherfuckers out. This is what this has been about just last 5 years. We've been won the game because we ain't never not know who we was, even when they was reclassifying us, telling us we was somebody else. We ain't never stopped being us. That's why our culture continually evolve and grow while
Yep.
everybody else is living off our culture we started 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, or more. They
That's
still
fact.
stuck in
That's
arrested
facts.
development in awe at the part of our culture when we created jazz, blues, bluegrass,
Mm-hmm.
country
Yep.
music, folk music, calypso music. Because most people don't know calypso music is a spinoff of reggae music, which is a
Mm-hmm.
conglomeration of music called island music from the different feel of the different tribes from the islands, right? So
Mm.
when you put it all together, we never stopped being us. We just was misidentified and misclassified because they didn't think that we would be able to assert our territorial jurisdiction and reclaim the land following the oral tradition. And that's why I say he
Mm-hmm.
spake and the thing became because he was speaking the truth. And out of his mouth came a two-edged sword. It cut both ways. It cut down the wicked and it cut the captives free. Right?
Mm.
So the campaign the
Right.
whole time has been to cut down the wicked and set the captives free by telling the truth and shaming the devil, standing in the position of
Mm-hmm.
right with the blood and the right to assert the jurisdictional claim of the great mother to restore the balance back to the land and among the people. Now it's up to the people to acknowledge that we followed every step of the way until we got Big Mama to sit on the sacerdotal seat to reclaim the position of authority and jurisdictional power of the tribes. And now we can start finding the qualified family representative that's going to form your new political framework for the next age. They call them your
Right.
tribal mothers. You got to have
Right.
tribal mothers. If you see a dude running around talking about he a chief and he don't got a tribal mother,